You're listening to LSPN, the authority on sports-related podcasts.
The Calallen Wildcats weekly press conference is brought to you by the Calallen Touchdown Booster Club. The Touchdown Booster Club exists to support and promote the Calallen High School football program by uniting students, parents, coaches, and the community.
The Calallen Football Show is sponsored by Rat Hole Drilling for all your rat hole, mouse hole, and cellar construction needs. ratholedrilling.com. Also by Nolan's Restaurant. Nolan's Restaurant has been a Corpus Christi tradition. Whether you're craving choice steaks, Gulf Coast seafood, real pit barbecue, or their famous original poor boy sandwich, Nolan's delivers high-quality, scratch-made favorites that feel like home. Come taste generations of flavor at Nolan's. We also want to thank Meijer for their support. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Coach Charlie Reeve. How you doing, Coach?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Let's start with Gregory Portland. You knew it was going to be a battle. Tell me what happened there, because they the first half, it seemed like they were doing a lot better.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, hats off to GP. I think they've got a really good team and had a good plan coming in, and disappointed in the outcome. I think we're a better team than what, than the outcome of the game. But I think there's a lot of lessons that we need to learn from this game, and we got to get better. And I think there were some things that, some weaknesses that were exposed that we've got to clean up. We got to get better on, and we put ourselves in a lot of bad situations. The things that we kind of look at when we talk about winning and losing ball games, it kind of starts out with, winning the turnover margin. We were -3 and versus good teams, you can't do that. We special teams and field position, we did not win that phase either. And we gave our defense a lot of short fields, and you can't do that, especially versus good offenses. And, offensively, I think, there was flashes of some good things, but, we also shot ourselves in the foot, quite a bit, whether that was, turning the ball over or, some untimely penalties, and then two is, we've got to stay on schedule, and we can't put ourselves in third and long situations. And, we've got to continue to establish the run and do those kind of things. So, obviously disappointed in the outcome. And again, I think we're a much better team than what the outcome showed. But, like I said, it's first game and I'd rather, kind of see those things now and instead of later in the season. But, we got a long way to go to get to where we want to be and where we need to be. But, I think we're going to get there.
Excellent. And what about things like pre-snap penalties? Because that's usually what happens more in game one. Did y'all have issues with that?
We didn't. That was one thing that as far as the pre-snap penalties go, it was, that's one of our goals each week is we talk about our plan to win is not beat ourselves. And that's pre-snap penalties, that's missed assignments. And we really didn't have a whole lot of those. And so in that case, we were pretty clean on that. But there was a lot of other areas that we got to get cleaned up.
Got it. And you mentioned some turnovers, some untimely penalties. At the core, though, line play is very important. How did the line do against GP's line?
Well, I think across the board, one of the things that we talked about on Saturday is that, we've got to be the most physical team on the field every time we take every game that we play, and we weren't, and that not just with our lines, but I think just across the board, offense, defense, special teams, and when you talk about our fronts, whether it be offensive line or defensive line, and we got to play on their side of the line of scrimmage, and we didn't do that. Credit them, and I think that they did some things that that helped them out in that aspect, but that's something that, from a program standpoint, that I take a lot of pride in, and that's something that, starts with me, and we've got to, that's got to be a foundation of who we are, is being a physical program, and it's not, I thought our kids played hard. It's, and there was some, we showed our kids on Saturday. I mean, there were some plays, some great effort plays late in the game, that, a lot of teams, when the game's out of hand, they would have laid down and quit, and our kids didn't, and credit to them. And, so the effort part, to me, I thought we played hard, but from a physicality standpoint, it's something that we've got to continue to improve on.
Definitely. And mention some of that, those great effort plays. Give me some standouts of people who maybe not did perfectly the whole game, but had some shining moments.
Sure. I mean, great example of that was, late in the game, Drayson Gomez, which is, he's our starting corner. He's also our starting receiver, and he's one of our returners in the, in special teams. And so he plays, he doesn't come off the field much. And, late in the game, they break a long run, and he could have easily, just let the guy go score, but he ran him down from about 60 yards and, made the tackle from behind. We ended up making a stop and forcing them to a field goal. And he came off the edge and blocked the kick to keep, points off the board. And, and those are things that we can build on. And those are things that we want to point out, that even though the game may have been out of hand at that point, we got guys that are still battling, and that was awesome to see, and that's, but that's the expectation across the board is great effort. But that was one that was, really stood out to us as coaches, that, we talk about relentless effort, and that was definitely a great example of that.
Love that. Cool. And let's shift now to the focus this week, not talking about Alice, not talking about the game, but the actual focus with practice. Sure.
The number one focus for us this week has been physicality. Mm-hmm. And, and not saying that we didn't have good practices before. I thought we've had good practices. I thought we've had good focus, but what we've talked about this week is, to play physical on Fridays, we got to play physical on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And, you got to practice. I had a coach that I used to work for that, he used to always say, you can't train for the jungle and the zoo, and practice can't be comfortable. And the best way for us to make each other better is we need competition in practice. And we've got to, and I think there's a fine line where, you can't go, full tackle to the ground, every day. But there's a way that you practice in a certain level of intensity that you've got to practice with, because again, you can't just flip a switch and it happens on Friday night. And so that's been a focus for us this week, and just being intentional with everything that we do and making every rep count, and again, how do we respond, and we talk a lot about toughness and true toughness, and toughness to me is how do you respond to adversity, and and our kids responded. I think we've had, 2 good days of practice, and we got to continue we got to have a great day today, and because we got a great opponent coming in on Friday night.
Yeah. Let's talk about Friday night. It's the home opener against Alice, but you're also celebrating some special people, right?
Yeah. So obviously a big game this week, but it's also our military and first responders game, and that's always a special night where we get to honor and celebrate those who serve and give back and sacrifice so much for us. So it's going to be a big night. We're going to have a flyover, and we're going to feed those guys before the game, and hopefully we go out and we honor them with the way that we play.
I love it. Well, let's talk about Alice. What do we expect from them?
Alice is Alice, and it's a program that has a lot of pride in their program, and they're always a physical team that plays really, really hard. I think offensively they're big up front, and I think they've got 2 backs that really run downhill hard, and we've got to do a great job of game tackling and wrapping up and bringing our feet, and defensively, they show you a lot of different things, and they put pressure on you, and I think they play hard. I think they're good tacklers, and so it's going to be another physical game, and we've got to rise to the challenge, and we've got to execute, and so we don't, there is no, our non-district schedule is really good, and so again we've got to show up and play our best ball. Definitely. Well, Coach Reeves, gosh, I want to thank you again for sitting down with me each and every week, sharing a little bit of what's going on there with the Wildcats. Best of luck this week, and hopefully we're replaying the home win next week. Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Since 2012, JE Construction Services has built the roads and infrastructure that keeps South Texas moving. Their heavy civil expertise covers refinery work, underground utilities, paving, and more. If you want a dependable, full-service contractor, choose JE Construction Services. Visit their website at jecs.cc. That's JE Construction Services.